Hey there, Rob. How you doing? We're doing something a bit strange for the beginning of this podcast. We're actually introducing it, aren't we? Which is not something we normally do. We normally pitch straight in there. But we thought it was a good idea to give the listeners a little bit of a introduction to just the next two podcasts, and then a quick plug to the one after that.
Yeah.
So what we're doing, what are the next two podcasts around, Robert?
Hello, Chris. So this is episode 7, and tonight we're going to talk to Ant Clifford, who is, among other things, a musician. Some people may have heard of his band Lofter. So we're going to talk to him this evening. Next week we're going to talk to Yvonne Lyon, who Chris knows very well. And we're going to talk to her about her experience of music and in her world. And then hopefully the week after that, I think we're going to try and do another group chat to follow up from the one we did a couple of weeks ago now. We haven't forgotten that we did kind of promise part 2.
Sure. Yeah, that's brilliant. I guess from the music point of view, I'm sure people will know that in the past, in fact, actually, Proost was conceived originally as a recording label before it kind of found the rest of itself within the publishing kind of world. But so in some senses, what we're trying to do is ask questions about, we don't know anything about the music industry really, despite having children who are musicians. And it seems to have changed so much anyway. So we just thought it'd be really good to talk to some actual musicians, to tell us a little bit about their practice, about how spirituality mingles with their music making, but also to understand a little bit more about, the current state of the industry. And maybe we also might linger a little bit into this Christian music thing.
Yeah.
Which again is a whole different animal, isn't it? So to have a bit of a chat about what people understand that to be, and maybe I know, I'm expecting that both of them have dipped their toe in at some point. I know Yvonne has in the past.
Yeah.
So
I think on Ant's CV he says he leads worship. So again, I'll be very interested to talk about that.
I should confess that I too used to lead worship, shouldn't I? I should out myself as a rainbow guitar strap owner.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I've done that thing. But anyway, okay. Well, we'll dive in shortly then. So yeah,
great.
Okay. Oh, welcome to Ant. It's great to have you with us. I'm going to shut up and hand you over to Rob, who's going to ask all sorts of wonderful and erudite questions. Erudite? Isn't that a glue?
Erudite. Yes, it is.
Erudite. Yeah. I probably didn't mean that, but okay.
Erudite, isn't it? Erudite?
It might be. It might be.
You're the wordsmith.
Isn't erudite the one where you get 2 glues and you have to put like
that's right.
And
that's eco stick, isn't it? I don't know.
We could make some kind of analogy out of that.
Love it.
First of all, and thank you so much for joining us. It's really great to meet you at last, at least. Can you, just for the sake of anyone who's never heard of you, please just introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you come from, and what you kind of do.
Yeah, no problem. So my name's Ant Clifford. I am... What was it again? This is going to be like this, by the way, Rob. My name, where I'm from,
yes.
Did you say?
Yes, that would work.
Based in Sheffield, yeah. And I've been here since like 99, and I've got a family here, and it's great. I really love it up here. And I was born near Birmingham, and then lived in Essex till I was 10, and then lived down in Reading. Went to university in Chichester. Ended up here in the end, which is great. So what do I do? So, actually from Proust's perspective, and from where I've been involved in that in the past, I'm a musician. But as a musician, being a musician is not a something that you can make a particularly a living on. Well, I've not been able to, but some people can do it, and that's amazing that they do. But for me, so I've actually got my job is a digital agency up here in Sheffield. So we mainly specialise in websites, healthcare and learning websites mainly, but lots of various different things. We can talk about that later if you want, but that's a little summary there. I'm married to Caroline, and I've got 4 boys. Oldest is 22 and the youngest is 14. So, yeah.
Good grief.
That's it.
That must have been fun.
This is where you're like, you don't look old enough for that, Ant.
Obviously you don't look old enough. Thank you. I mean, how did you come across Proost?
Okay, so actually, Andy Freeman, so not the original stuff, okay, not the stuff right back in the day, but Andy Freeman was running Proost, and I'm not really sure. I can't quite remember, but I think he must have taken it over at some point and brought it back. Must have loved the resources and all that kind of stuff. I've still not seen the Labyrinth stuff, by the way. I'd love to find that, but. No. Do you remember? I think I emailed and said I'd love to see the Labyrinth, and you said I'll try and dig it out, but it's a bit of a mystery, like where it all is, and don't want to Google for it either. You never know what you might find. No.
Wouldn't recommend it.
So that's right. And so anyway, Andy was looking for musicians to maybe be part of Proost, looking for like the resources, and I know he, was gathering poets and. He's doing a lot of, mindfulness and meditation stuff and inner healing stuff and all that, counselling type stuff as well, which he's really passionate about. And I'm sure he's done that at Greenbelt. I know Andy just a little bit, by the way. But what it was is Lawrence, who's part of Lofter, fantastic songwriter. Actually, he had I think it's this way around. Yeah, so he and his family had a house in Sheffield. And Andy bought that house.
Right.
So now I don't know I'm sure they maybe knew each other from church stuff, around Sheffield before that, but maybe because of that, maybe not. I can't really fill in the gaps with this one because I was more secondhand in this relationship. And Lawrence said, to talk to Andy, he was talking about wanting to find musicians like us to do music. And we were making an EP at that point, and we released it through Proost. And so that was absolutely brilliant. Then we did an album like a year later, and again released it through Proost. And we did that. We released it through Proost a week earlier than sending it through all the normal, streaming platforms, so that people could access that. They could purchase that in advance, and then if they wanted to get it a week early, and then we released it on all the other things that you can get, Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Which EP was that?
So it was one called Liminal.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And that was something that, that was a lot of fun. That one, we really enjoyed doing that. And then, and that was in 2019, and then in 2020 released the album Detour. Again through Proost initially.
So how long has Lofter been going?
Wow. Yeah, it's actually been going. Originally, it started in 2002. Believe it or not.
Right.
Which is a really long time ago.
You really don't look old enough. I just want to say that.
Thank you. So that was. I remember we had a rehearsal in a loft. So, Imaginality. Came up with that imaginative name.
Right.
From that first rehearsal, if I remember rightly. And at that point, we're a band. Lawrence actually started it with me. He moved away for a number of years from Sheffield, and when he came back, I said to him, I'd had someone I'd been playing with didn't really want to do it anymore. A guy called Chris, who did the Raindrop album with me, and he kind of wanted to quit. And Lawrence had just moved back to Sheffield, and I said, do you want to, what do you think? And he was like, yeah, that sounds great. So we started up again doing the music.
Right.
Which is brilliant. So that was, I think it was 2016 I'd started doing it again. Because I remember, actually, I'd done it.
Right.
So we started Lofter in 2002. And then it was around that time that I had my first child, right? But by the time child number 2, I had to give it up. I realised that it was not possible. The music thing was the one thing that I'd managed to cling on to, you know, with having children. The one thing that I managed to do, and that had to go. It had to go. It was too much raising a family. So then 4 kids later, and the youngest one starts getting a bit older. 2016, he'd have been about 7, and I just really wanted to do it again. So I picked it up, and something that's pretty typical of me, I just wanted to keep the same name, really. It wasn't like the name had any particular traction or anyone knew what it was, but for me, it was really important, and I loved it. So I just thought, well, let's keep the same name. And just kind of reinvented it, made it into something a bit different. It's been through, first of all, it was kind of an indie band. Then it went through a punk rock phase, believe it or not.
Right.
And then it stopped for a bit. It came back acoustic, like fully acoustic, kind of alternative acoustic music. And it's kind of stuck with that a little bit more since then, although I have taken it into slightly heavier directions with the odd song, which has been a lot of fun to do. More recently. So we've actually got 4 releases, which you can listen to on any normal streaming platform out there. 2 EPs and 2 albums. Oh no, sorry, it's 5. 3 albums and 2 EPs. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I just can't.
Prolific.
I can't stop. I can't.
You're
stop.
Prolific. That's really what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. Yeah. I'm very driven, you know, and I don't have loads of spare time, but I'd love to spend it on this when I do have it.
How did Proost help you? Because this is one of the things that Chris and I are really interested in, is how can a new version of Proost, or could a new version of Proost help up-and-coming creatives?
Yeah.
Whether they're musicians or... What do not young people, what do new musicians need?
That's a great question. I mean, I would say that I think there's a massive saturation of musicians, of creatives in our culture. There's a huge number of people. So it's one of those things where when you're passionate about it and you really want to do it, it's very hard to get noticed at all in any way. So for someone like, you know, when Andy came to us and said, you know, we'd love to put it on our site and promote it with our with our mailing list and all that kind of stuff. You're not going to say no to that. That's a really exciting proposition, because you just think, oh, someone's actually keen to, you know, to back us and get behind us and give us a platform so that people can hear us in a different way. People that you wouldn't necessarily get to hear your music otherwise. And so that's just something I think is really, really lovely. And any opportunity for, you know, passionate musicians would, you know, you'd be crazy not to take it, because it's not like, you know, there's no exclusivity. It's not like a record contract. It's just someone saying, okay, we think your music's really great for this reason or the other reason. Let's do that. And we did a little interview with Andy. And he put that up there as well, and just to talk about the music.
Right.
It was a written one on the page, and so that was just really great. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And so you obviously knew Andy before. It was Lawrence who knew him, really.
Yeah, Lawrence knew him more at the beginning, but I got to know him. Later on.
I'm just interested in how that would, in the new version of Proost, how that would.
Yeah.
They must have trusted you to produce something that was, I don't know, within the ethos of Proost. I don't know if that's the right language, but, you know, had the same sort of values, if that's the right...
Do you know what cross rhythms? Do you know cross rhythms? Have you heard of that?
Yes.
Okay, so cross rhythms, and we don't even know why or how, but we had some reviews on cross rhythms popped up for the first album that we did. Yeah. And that, I can't remember the person's name who did it, but I don't know how he'd found our music, but he reviewed the album. And that's got Christian links, and potentially that meant that even though we're not an overtly Christian band, there's a lot in the lyrics and the kind of feelings behind a lot of the songs that have meaning that kind of crosses.
Yeah.
It's got some spiritual significance, and I think that's just something that maybe came across, so it was worth doing.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, for me personally, I lead worship at church. I've done this for years and years and years. I did a vulnerable people service at St Thomas, Philadelphia, in Sheffield. Before lockdown, for about 10 years, I was the main worship leader and would just play there all the time, stomping gospel type stuff,
right.
High energy worship, bit of praise. And and then lockdown happened, and then I've been doing that for a long time. So we've actually joined a new church, a new kind of, not church plant exactly, but a new church that started up in nearer to where we live. We got asked if we would help, and actually now I'm doing the worship leading there most of the time, and that is that's absolutely great for me, and I love that. That's brilliant. Okay, but for me personally, writing music and something that has a lot of meaning for me, that's more worship for me. That's more of a connection, right?
Okay.
This is probably a more normal way of putting it that people could understand. That's a connection to God, to the earth, everything. That's a connection point for me. That this music, my own music, is more of a worship connection point.
Can I interrupt for a moment then, boys? Because I'm just wondering if this might be the ideal time to actually listen to some of Ant's music. And have you sent us a few tracks, which I'm hoping my skills will allow me to edit in as we need to. So which song would you? This is a bit like Desert Island Disc now, isn't it? Which song would you like to choose first of all?
So my mum will be so pleased. She loves Desert Island Discs. Delighted.
You've got the complete works of Hillsong. That's a given.
The playlist.
Yeah. So what do you want to do as an introduction to which song? I guess. Yeah. On you go. So
actually, the songs I've picked are all from the Detour album, which got released through Proost. But I'm really fond of them. This one is called Home, this song, and I wrote it from a perspective of someone who is vulnerable, someone who has had a really hard life, can't really fit in easily with society, or isn't, well, I mean, there's a story behind it. Many years ago with this vulnerable people service I was involved in, there was one of the people who came along, this guy, and he, I saw on Facebook, he was saying, I've just been kicked out of my house, I don't know what to do. And I'm kind of just walking around the streets of Sheffield. So I messaged him and said, are you okay? What's up? I didn't know him very well. But long story short, I said to him, well, I've got a pop-up tent. I can pop you a tent in the back garden if you want, because it was summer. And if you want to stay there, that would be absolutely great. So he came, had a shower and met with us and slept in the tent. And this was absolutely great for a little while. And it started to get hard because he started to, he was trying to get work and trying to get property again, somewhere he could live. And as time went on, over the month or so that he was living in our garden, it got a bit harder and harder. He was coming back later, he was drinking, he wasn't knocking on the door and seeing us. He had a side gate key, and he just didn't really. The reason we wouldn't have him in our house is we had young children at the time, so we didn't know him well enough, so that was why. And over time it just got harder and harder, to the point where we said, we really need you to let us know, like when you're coming, like we want to see you, make sure you knock on the door and come and see us so that we can have a chat. And we wanted to just talk about it. And it was really heartbreaking, but we felt like we had no choice but to change the locks, because he was coming back in the middle of the night, drunk a lot of alcohol, and it was just getting harder and harder.
Right.
And I remember he said to me when I first picked him up, I've been kicked from pillar to post. That's what he said to me. And then
Yeah.
it was so hard because it felt like now I'm another person who's kicked him from pillar to post. It was just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
A wise friend of mine said to me, but I was saying, this is awful. I feel terrible. This is horrible that this has happened. And he said to me, would you do it again? He was like, how do you feel about it? And I was like, well, of course, I'd want to help someone if I came across someone that really needed help. But I just felt like it got to the point where I couldn't do anything. We tried to get in touch with charities that might be able to help him and all that kind of stuff, but he just stopped communicating with us after a little while. So that was really heartbreaking. Right. So this song is the song that I wrote about that from the perspective of someone who has been kicked from pillar to post. That lyric's in there, and it's a because it broke my heart, but I wanted to put it in music in that way, of someone who it's a bit of a tragedy really, but the song is. Wow. But just the fact that if you've been abused, neglected, anything like that when you're really young, when you're younger, it can stop people from being able to function in a difficult society like ours to play the game. You know, and I can understand why people don't want to be part of it or can't be part of it. And that's something. That's what this song's about.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's listen to the song.
Good.
And I said, hey, I'm heading home today. Nothing left to say. Now that I've gone astray, and there I'll stay. A day, show me the way. Finally there I'll lay down. When I was little, I never thought I'd run away. Life was exciting from dawn till the end of day. It wasn't easy, but there was always hope shining through the dark. And all the people who cared for me were good and fair. Pushed them away many times, they were always there. Didn't mean to be difficult, didn't mean to miss the mark. And I said, hey, I'm headed home today. Nothing left to say. Now that I've gone astray, and there I'll stay. A day, show me the way. Finally there I'll lay down. As I got older, I felt I didn't fit at all. So many knockbacks, many times I felt so small. All I could manage was packing up my life and walking out the door. From that point on, I was kicked from pillar to post, thinking about who and what I'd left behind the most. All of my life I could not get back to what I had loved before. Trying to find my song. I only wanted to belong. I only wanted to belong. I said, hey, I'm heading home today. Nothing left to pay. Now that I've got away, and there I'll stay. Always show me the way. That's where they'll lay me down, 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 down.
Okay, so yeah, that is quite an amazing. Sometimes to know the story behind a song changes so much the way that you engage with it and the way that it connects with the pith of the thing. So thank you so much for that. It kind of reminds me so much of that. You know, as just in your introduction there, you were talking about the kind of brutalizing effect of I guess abusive starts in life, and it just seems doubly unfair, doesn't it? That people who are given that awful kicking at the beginning of things, then it just becomes even harder for that person to engage and find help down the line. It's like the story of my entire career, really, of trying to kind of find those connections. So yeah. Wow. So anyway, I want to talk to you a little bit more about this intersection of music and spirituality. Because clearly that's what that song was exploring. That's what I guess most music would do anyway. You talked about the music that you make in church, and you've talked about the music that you make as Lofter. What's the relationship between those two things?
I'd say that it's kind of weird because I've written songs for church, for congregational singing, right? And when I do that, the melody has to be really simple. Has to be really simple enough for people to pick up quickly and sing along within a limited range of singing. So there's a technical side of that kind of congregational singing, everyone singing together. And the best songs for that, are really well pitched for men and women and kind of work like for male and female voices, and that's and with the kind of melody that you can pick up really easily. That's a really important part of that. And the difference, when I'm writing a song for Lofter, for myself, that is not a factor in any way. It has nothing to do with it. Yeah. So as in I can be as exploratory as I want with my melody, right? Completely. And the other thing is with lyrics, you can't be kind of conceptual with them particularly. Although I say that, you probably notice that a lot of modern worship music is lyrically quite simple, right? But actually some of the great hymns are actually very colourful in language, much more poetic. Right. But they're still, we look at those and they're still quite obvious in their poetry, right? What they're getting at, even though the language is wonderful in a lot of them. So I'd say that those two, the way that the lyrics are created and the way that the melody's done and where it's pitched are really important parts of the differences between a song that you would want to do for yourself, that you're just singing, right, or one that is for a congregation. So that's a big difference. And I've tried, I've tried different songs that I've written in a church scenario, congregational scenario, and actually they haven't all worked. But some of the simpler ones really have. Right. You can tell because the way that you can see people engaging with it. So it's interesting, like leading worship. You guys do any of that stuff? Have you done any music in that way, like for people?
I have to come out of the closet and say I'm an ex-worship leader as well. I actually owned a rainbow guitar strap, and that's how advanced I was in the genre.
Yeah. Please tell me you had sandals and socks.
Of course I did. Of course. Well, no, probably didn't. I wasn't that cool, frankly. I wasn't cool enough. But I go way back to the kind of my first forays into music as a kind of a young teenager. We're all in church, so it was all back then sort of fisher folk, sort of very simple worship choruses. Right through to, I suppose, we would have been more on the vineyard side of the kind of soft rock worship before I gave it all up, which I did very consciously in the end, partly through being involved in other forms of worship and just thinking I can't do that bit anymore. And also because the thematic content of a lot of the worship songs that I was singing were often I was struggling to kind of relate to them. I was struggling to find myself in them, to find the story that I was experiencing within them. Ever more kind of repetitive versions of substitutionary atonement really was what we saw. I too had tried to write some of my own songs, and as you say, it's not as easy as you'd think, is it? It's that anthemic quality that kind of allows people to kind of enter into worship. But I heard someone say something recently which kind of really pinned me in my seat. It was a podcast I was listening to with an American musician who also used to be a worship leader, and they're asking him, and obviously he'd had a lot of negative things to say about the Christian music business in America and how that shaped him, and how at times he'd been totally beaten up by it all. But then he said something like, "There's something about that what happens when you stand up within a large group of people and everybody opens their heart and starts to sing, that is the greatest musical high of anything I've ever experienced." And I absolutely get that, because to be in a large group of people, and there's these kind of windows of incredible kind of almost psychic power that happens when people sing together like that.
Yeah.
So that's my experience. This is my confession.
I totally agree.
No.
I totally agree.
Is it like
everything you're saying? It's brilliant. Really.
I'm just wondering, does it transcend? It gets to a point where something genuinely spiritual, if you want to put it like that, is happening.
Well, I guess my take on that, I don't know whether you would agree, Ant, but I think that definitely there is something transcendent about those experiences. But also, because of that, there's also something potentially manipulative about those experiences, which is what I struggled with in the end. You're kind of setting up a high, so it's softening up the flesh so that the preacher can come in with some kind of hard hitting sermon. Maybe I don't know that, but within all of that, I think there's still something very, very beautiful about the whole worship music experience, which I can't even though I don't listen very much anymore, or very, very rarely, I can't quite let it go.
Okay, well, I mean, you can. The problem is when you start to make it into a business, or you start to systematize it, it starts to become something completely different. And that, things like the worship curve, I forget that. I never subscribed to anything like as ridiculous as that.
I did once.
Did you? How did it go?
Yep. Well, it works very well.
Right. I suppose.
If people don't know what that is, it's worth just explaining what you mean by the worship curve then.
Yeah, well, I don't really know, but from a basic point of view, isn't it that you just you start big and then you take people into the more emotional stuff, and the problem is it just feels like manipulation, like you said.
It does. It absolutely does. Yeah.
And actually, it's just a song that that I might be inspired to pick at that point, or someone else has said, "Oh, I love this. Like, can we play that?" That's a different thing. That feels like it works better for me. Picking stuff that way, and also songs that where people might have really engaged with it. When with doing that kind of music, so playing like your own music live, to an audience, right, or doing music where other people are singing with you, are two different things. And when they're singing with you, I think what you were saying about that collective. When people get together as a collective, it's one of the most, incredible spiritual and connections with other people. There's just something that happens in that space, right? And for me, I don't know, it feels like some intensity of the spirit or connection with other people or something like that, right? I don't really know. You definitely can feel it if it's going somewhere. And I'm looking for that. I'm looking for people connecting with that when I'm reading the chords, I'm playing them, I'm singing. If I'm playing with other musicians, I'm mindful of what they're doing as well. And I'm looking around, just checking that people are engaging. And if they're switching off, I need to change what I'm doing. I need to think about that a bit more. There's a lot to factor in that situation.
Okay. Going towards the Lofter side of things then, how I mean, in the sense that music at its best is always transcendent, I guess. It's always kind of takes you beyond yourself. It finds those connections that in ways that we perhaps don't always fully understand. Do you experience that differently within, the other forms of music, or would you say it's the same?
What do you mean, like with my own music? Or
Yeah.
sorry.
I suppose I'm comparing those transcendent moments that happen in a large worship service where you just feel like you're riding a crest. Do you have those same experiences when it's not worship music, when it's the other stuff?
See, yes, if you've got people engaging, yeah, and that's the key, right? So they might not be singing along, of course, but if you can see that they're relating to you, then there's a song that I've the last song I've written, which is one about, it's just called Crash Bang, and it's one about ADHD, about having ADHD. So, because I got, a couple of years ago, I decided to go for a diagnosis.
Okay.
And got it. Okay. So, yes, hands down, ADHD. I was hyperactive as a child. I knew it. And that was I was a lot of work as a child for everyone. And I think that was, going to make it pretty much a guaranteed thing. But I wanted to know for myself. And so I wrote a song about that. And it's really positive about the whole thing, about finding out and about engaging with people. And it's one that that song is one that I've played at a couple of gigs recently. Both times, really good engagement from people. Like, people really relating to it or coming up and saying, "Oh, this is great." I actually met someone a couple of gigs ago who came and said, "Oh, I'm ADHD. I'm also trained to be an ADHD coach for some charity, ADHD charity. I can't remember what it's called. No one can remember because we're ADHD, so you're not going to remember what the charity is called." And it's so they and could we do some coaching sessions? Could I do some coaching sessions with you? Because I need some people to do it with, like to get my accreditation or something. And that happened because I played that song. So stuff like that, like really good. And the last gig that I did was just a beautiful gig. It's a place called the Lantern Theatre in Sheffield. This gorgeous kind of tiny venue, about an 80-seat venue with like 2 tiny levels for people to sit in, and then a stage. And it's about, I don't know, it's about 5 meters wide. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Played there, and you can hear a pin drop because everybody's listening, because it's the lights go down and it's seated and everyone's facing forward. So it's not like a pub. So some gigs I've done, you play and people are just chatting. You're just background music.
Yes.
That is, okay, I'll just play to myself. That's fine. But it's so much better when people are listening for you. There was an IKEA that opened in Sheffield, and we have to play like for the whole month.
The opening ceremony.
Wow.
Yeah, they got some bands in, so one of them was us. This camera's so annoying. I've gone blurry. Apologies for anyone actually watching this right now. Let's see if I can reset it.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. So, can I just ask though? I know you've given us an indication of where the inspiration for some of your songs come from. I suppose I don't know if this is even a sensible question, but I want to know why you feel the need to put it to music. To write down the words and put it to music. What is that about?
It's usually the music comes first. Yeah. I know that's it's completely different for everyone, but for me, the music's first. Usually I've got a melody or a chord sequence, and that's something that I'd start with. Then I would then start working on the words after I've got the melody.
Right.
Because I'm trying to fit it with the melody, with the syllables.
Yeah.
For that first line.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm singing complete nonsense, right? And occasionally that nonsense is something I'm like, I quite like that though. And I wonder whether I could write something about that, and take that forward and make it into something that's a full song. with a theme that I wouldn't even necessarily have thought to written a song about. That's occasionally happened too.
Yeah.
But like the one that we played earlier, Home, that one's one that I started out with a full intention to write the song about that particular thing. So, it's a little bit different. But I would still, occasionally I've written the lyrics first, but I always will change them so that they fit the melody better. So I'd have to rework them. Now, obviously, like most of the time you want to rhyme as well, which when it's just poetry is not as common at all, but with a song, it's just much more pleasing to have that rhyming. And that, having to find a rhyme can change the direction of the song as well, because it doesn't necessarily mean that the theme that you're trying to put across, when you've got to actually make something rhyme, it might not, it might not work quite as well. And that can be a bit of a challenge. I just try and make sure it's not cheesy, whatever I do, it's got to have, it's got to be classy, it's got to be nice. And obviously, like, sometimes we write songs together. So Lawrence, who I've mentioned already, is a brilliant songwriter, and we both, sometimes we write the lyrics together. So we've done that too. And I'm, I'll have to ask him where he gets, which order he does this in. But I think he'll write the melody first and then put the lyrics on afterwards.
Right.
Well, let's hear another song then, Ant. What are you going to play us next?
Oh, great. Well, I'll play one that he and I wrote together then, which should be great. It's a song called No Shame, which is also off the Detour album. And it's one that we wrote because Lawrence, he was training to be a counsellor at the time. He's now a counsellor. And he was talking about shame being really damaging. And I'm sure you know about this, Chris. You must deal with this kind of stuff with your work. It's shame is really dangerous because it can affect people in such negative ways. And when you're just trying to live your life and be who you are, and there's shame around that, it's just tragic. So we wanted to write a song that encompassed that whole theme about, no shame, so be who you are, let's together have no shame, it's very much, this one, we're talking about trying to write a song that's anthemic. This one is kind of worked out as a bit of an anthemic song. And so I've got a friend called Adam who I'm doing a lot of the music with now. And he loves doing live music. Lawrence did that for a bit. He's not so keen to do live music, but we still write together and record together. But my friend Adam just loves doing live music, like me. So he's a great singer, and so we do a lot of singing together now. And Adam and I were doing this at an open mic. We played the song No Shame. Someone came to us afterwards and said, I mean this with the greatest respect and in no offence at all, but that song would be really good as a Eurovision song. So it was pretty funny. Went home, and my younger son Ollie is a bit of a muso. Okay, he loves writing kind of electronic dance music and stuff like that. As a 14-year-old, it's great. I went to him and told him this, and he went, "Oh, I know exactly what to do." And he's a big Eurovision Song Contest fan, and he had all these plans. It's like, this is what the drum beat needs to be. You need to make sure that you need to rewrite the verses because they need to be in a minor key, and then you can have the major chord. He knew it all. He knew everything. Okay, this is the version. The version I've recorded isn't the Eurovision version. Adam and I have started working on the Eurovision version.
Oh, we need to feature that one as well, Rob, when it comes out.
You mentioned that, didn't you? Yeah, it makes sense, and it's beginning to make sense. The Eurovision version,
right?
That's it. Yeah, it was a bit like that. It's like
right. Well,
we'd probably end up having to, if we did it, we'd probably end up having to sell it to another country because the BBC is a little bit of a, I don't know, nepotistic organisation, and I don't think there's any way you could possibly get it in as a UK entry. Not that would mean that it would, it wouldn't have much of a chance if we did anyway, by the way things go. But
well, we didn't do so well last time, Ant, so the only way is up.
Exactly. But if anyone knows anyone who is in song selection of any country who enters Eurovision, get in touch with us. We want to hear from you. We've got a song that might work.
Let's hear the song.
Hear first.
No shame. No shame. No shame living this way. We know it's more than okay. No shame being different, authentic and innocent. No shame talking like this. It might start a crisis. No shame we are feeling. Look what we're revealing. No shame, you are worth more. You are not a failure. No shame, come and join us. Together we are one. Together we are powerful. Together we are one. Feel your hopeful. Oh, we can make the world better. Together we are powerful. A magnetic is our life. Feeling hopeful. No shame in feeling weak. We're all totally unique. No shame standing right out. Must shake off the self-doubt. No shame trying so hard. We hold that higher regard. No shame loving this much. So many lives we can't touch. No shame shouting it loud. You have permission, be proud. No shame, sing it with us. Together we are one. Together we are powerful. Together we are one. Feeling hopeful. Oh, we can make the world better. Together we are powerful. The magnetic is our love. Feeling hopeful. When we stand as one, there will be a strong attraction, changing everyone. It will have begun. No shame. No shame. Together we are one. Together we are powerful. Together we are one. Feeling hopeful. We can make the world better. Together we are powerful. A magnetic is our life. Feeling hopeful. No shame. Oh, no shame.
So thank you for that, Ant. No shame. Yes. Just, I suppose one of the things that you talked about earlier was the business about making money and making a living through art and through music. And that's a huge theme for any of us that have stumbled into trying to kind of use our creativity to make a living.
Yeah.
So I'm just interested to know a little bit more about your experiences of the music business. How that has gone. What are the ways that people make a living now? I mean, you probably already know that Proost, in its first kind of envisioning, was to be a record label. That was what it was supposed to be, not really what it became.
It was brilliant to hear that podcast, by the way, of all the interview you did. It's so good.
Yeah. So I guess within that, obviously, what we're really interested to kind of know a little bit more about as people that aren't involved in the music scene anymore is, one, how have things changed since those days when perhaps it was much easier to go down a traditional recording recording contract, touring, supporting a release of an album, all of that kind of stuff, which a world at which I'm told no longer exists, that those kind of usual parameters don't really kind of happen anymore. And obviously beyond that is, if there are other ways for those things to kind of emerge now, and other ways to support artists, as to whether or not we can, Proost might be part of that support network. So tell us first of all then about what you started this back in 2001, did you say? So that was a different world. 2002, right? You're not that old.
Yeah. And you wrote a song about it, did you not?
What was
Isn't
that?
there in your repertoire? There's a song about being a rock star or giving it up. Now, which one is it?
Oh, now you're asking. Wow.
Yeah, there is.
That must have been the other Ant.
No.
that other band called Lofter-ish.
No, there is one where the line is something about
Go on, Rob.
carrying on, or carrying on with the band. Something about being in the band or giving it up.
Gosh.
Having a name up in lights and all that stuff. Come on. You hasn't played it in a long time, have you?
Wow.
Anyway, there we go. Did you ever dream of your name up in lights?
Oh, no, that'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it? I've got on my wall here. I've got this past the microphone. I've got a big creatives. That's the word up in lights in my room. Love that. But that's cool. My business is called Creative Stream, so creatives. I thought that was kind of fun.
Okay.
But that's the closest I've ever come to my name in lights. Half of my business name on my home office wall. My cupboard under the stairs.
So it sounds like you were always very level-headed about it.
I don't think I ever tried to. I never had an opportunity. Never found any. Never came in touch with anyone as a record label, or anything like that. I've had friends who've tried to make it, and they haven't. And that's required a huge amount of sacrifice from them. Lots of sacrifice. So that it affects your family. It affects everything. If you really try and push the stuff. My best friend was a drummer in a band that they, that really tried to make it, but it just fell apart. Really, it didn't work. I just think even those people who really try, will make a massive effort and commit to it as a kind of a career thing, in the hope that they'd make it. Not many of them make it either. Unfortunately, it's a very hard industry to break into. And now I feel like the only way that it can happen is by being referred by other artists, or just being in the right place at the right time, or various things like that. I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean, just a few examples. I can't remember. There's a band called, I think it's Royal Blood, is it? Yeah, Royal Blood. They're a really good band, rock duo. But I think the Arctic Monkeys drummer wore "I Love Royal Blood" T-shirt for the tour.
Right.
So they then, they made it. I think there's another one. There's an artist called Rachel Chinarori who's just released an album, and which is really good, and it's got a lot of Radio 1 airplay. That to get in on that kind of BBC exposure is very good as well. That works, something I've never achieved. I remember she sent a drunken message to who's the Scottish singer who sings ballads? The name's gone. Lewis Capaldi, right?
Oh yes.
Right.
Right. So she sent a drunken message to Lewis Capaldi, not knowing him at all, and said, "Can I be your support act for your tour?" And he said, "Listen to some of the music," and went, "Yeah, okay, great." Little breaks like that, these kind of things can, they can happen. I mean, if you're in the right place at the right time, or, just lucky, I guess, or whatever. But just knowing people who've tried and not succeeded, and it's been at a great cost, it's pretty hard. Yeah. So I was always like, this is just a hobby, and I'm going to do it. You never know, something might happen that's that's really great. You know, you might get some kind of break, but you might not. It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, part of me is you put your music in to play at some event or whatever, and a couple of times I've had people write back, "You're not quite what we're looking for right now. Thank you very much." You get those kind of responses. Just thinking, okay, like you guys have said on occasion, you know, it might be being white, middle-aged, male. These things might not help the case very much, but or maybe the music wasn't good enough, fine, or something else was more interesting. But yeah, it's just, you know, you try, but I think it doesn't matter. What's amazing is that you can release music. Okay, so each time I release music, I do it through a place called CD Baby. Right, there's a number of different distributors. These are distributors that get music onto streaming platforms, and I pay about $30, and then upload my tracks and the artwork, do all the little descriptions and stuff like that. I have to buy barcodes as well, so you have to buy a barcode. I know this is kind of weird, but if you do that, pay that little bit of money, they'll listen to the music, make sure it's good quality, right? If it's bad quality, they'll come back and say, this isn't working. You know, they have to have a listen through before they release it, and then they send it to all the streaming platforms, and you can set a release date, and that's the way I do it. And obviously, we did it through Proost first, and made sure that was being released earlier, you know, through Proost. So if people wanted to listen to it, and they could listen to it through the Proost site first as well, and then they could buy it if they liked it from there. And then a week later, it got released on all the streaming things.
It was
so
quite
at least that's something that can happen. Yeah.
It was quite heartening to hear your description of how important that contact with Proost was, because it reminded me very much of the chats that we would previously have had around poetry and recognising poets and poets that were included in the anthologies that we did through Proost, and how releasing that was, you know, the sense of someone else recognising you as bringing something to the table that was valuable in a context of a world, you know, publishing world within poetry, but it sounds like within music as well, which is largely indifferent unless you have some kind of celebrity plug-in appeal.
Yeah.
Is that how it felt?
It just felt like a really kind opportunity. That's what it felt like. It felt like something that someone liked us enough to want to, you know, promote us. Well, help themselves at the same time, of course. But it's a win-win situation. There was nothing about it that was a lose-lose. Nothing to lose in that situation. So I just think that's fantastic. Yeah. Now, how does it apply otherwise, right? So what we might be trying to do here is inspire people, give them an experience of some kind, help them spiritually connect in the way that they're going to connect, whether that's with others or, you know, anywhere. And it's that. I mean, that's just like what an amazing privilege to do that. So that could be Proost. Now, again, I think that it's just something that what a great opportunity to do that. I wonder whether I guess one thing that I could mention is that, you know, because I run this business, one of our things that we do is we create resource sites for the Church of England. So there's a site called the Church Support Hub that's just launched again recently, and that's something that where there's loads of stuff on there, you know, music, documents, case studies, podcasts, webinars, all sorts of stuff. And that's going to run the resourcing of the Church of England now centrally. We do it for a number of dioceses as well. So we've created these resource sites. And the whole idea is that what you're trying to do is just, they're trying to resource people in the diocese, whether that's just someone who wants to learn more or wants to use something in their community, you know, like a resource, like a poem or some music or whatever. And I think what would be great is if Proost could resource people, okay, to be able to have that, you know, by providing them with something with some spiritual significance in some way, that is a way that they can connect in themselves or with others. What a great thing to do, you know,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, this
that
is
covers
very
everything
much.
that you've been talking about. It covers all the things that I've been listening to on your podcast up to now.
Wow. I mean, this is definitely something that we need to explore further, Robert.
Yes, it is.
Yes, very much so.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, I think as we kind of chatted briefly about in our preamble, one of the there's this overarching issue of what Proust is going to be, and our repeated mantra is Proust will be what people who gather around the idea of Proust want it to be. What they bring, and our vague idea of a hub and lots of spokes relating to different artistic disciplines supporting one another needs some kind of umbrella to connect all that together. And obviously, at some point, whatever it is, that if it's anything, that's going to be online, because I mean, I'm in Scotland. Rob's in the other end of the universe, down where the dragons live. You're probably exactly between us. So I guess that's
in the middle.
That is the world that we live in now, isn't it? We're not gathered. We are scattered. I still hope that there's elements of gathering as well, but a lot of that will have to be via the modern day savior and evil that is the internet. So if you've got some solutions to how that might look, then we are very much up to learning from that, because we know very little.
If people I guess the way I put it is like, you've got to find the hook, the thing that, like, categorize a category set, right, of something or other. It could be anything. It could be the mood you're in, what you might need, right? Whether you want something for a small group of people, or something to take to the pub to talk about, or or a traditional church service, whatever it is that they might do. That could be your category, those types of things. Or like the mood, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling sad, I want to connect with God, I just want to spend time by myself, like a mood set of categories. Now, if you start gathering resources like poetry, music, things like that, when you categorize them, you give people a way to find those resources through that category system, that the community of Proust has decided that's the way they want to engage with trying to find the right kind of resources. Maybe that's just an idea. That's something I'd be trying to find.
Interesting. Well, I'm just looking at our timeline, and we've used an awful lot of your time already. And I'm just thinking, Rob, is there anything we have not that we were going to talk about that we haven't? Let's look down our little list here. I think we really have. I think you've done a fantastic job. So we're going to hear one more song, just as the music fades, shall we say?
Great.
So you might as well tell us about that one as well, because this is the one called No Planet B, I believe, is the title of this one. Is that right?
It's a bit of a cheesy phrase that I've heard people say. There is no Planet B, so don't ruin this one. is the kind of sentiment behind that idea.
Still true, no matter how cheesy, actually.
Chris, where was it that you went? You went and visited and stayed on an island where no one had land ownership. What was that again?
Fair Isle.
Fair Isle, right? That was really cool to hear about that. I really enjoyed hearing about that. It was something that I really resonated with, because my second son James has gone to Australia, and I went with him for 3 weeks and then came back to normal everyday duties, and that was a real privilege. But we went and we went on an Aboriginal tour with some people who were ancestors of people who'd been on that land before, and it was just very similar. There's no land ownership there until white people went and blew it basically, and did atrocities to those people. But they're trying to reclaim some of their heritage slowly over time, and by doing these tours, it was really interesting to hear about that. But it was that very similar in sentiment of that. People lived in community, no one owned anything. It was a very harmonious 60,000 years of it may not have always been harmonious, but it definitely changed. And I just thought that was really great to hear about Fair Isle. Sounds absolutely brilliant. The way that you had to be really mindful of say, the electricity you use, the resources that you use. You have to be really careful and think of other people. And what a brilliant thing to move away from such an individualistic life that we have. You know, modular individualism. That's what we have, and just brilliant to hear about that. And this song, No Planet B, was something that I wrote because it was almost like what I wanted to do was to, and this is actually more on the poetic side of stuff that I write as well, by the way, lyrically, this song. But it's something that as I go through the song, the ending, the last verse is almost like a little letter to my kids to say, let's start improving things. Let's start making a difference to our environment, to our planet. And then, but that's not going to happen in my lifetime. So I want to I'm going to pass it to you, and it'll be your job next, you know? And that's what this song is about.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we're going to listen to that just as the music fades kind of thing, but I just wanted to say, thank you so much for this chat. It's been really great to meet you across the airwaves. And just I hope we're going to have some more conversations down the line. So thank you so much.
And thank you both for having me. It's been really fun.
Very much, Ant.
Okay. All the best.
Good. Glad you
Cheers.
enjoyed it. Yeah. Thank you very much.
No shame, no shame, no shame living this way. We know it's more than okay. No shame being different, authentic and innocent. No shame talking like this, it might start a crisis. No shame, we are feeling, look what we're revealing. No shame, you are worth more, you are not a failure. No shame, come and join us. Together we are one, together we are powerful, together we are one. Feel your heart pull, or we can make the world better. Together we are powerful, and magnetic is our life. No shame in feeling weak, we're all totally unique. No shame standing right out, must shake off the self-doubt. No shame trying so hard, we hold that high in regard. No shame loving this much, so many lives you can't touch. No shame shouting it loud, you have permission, be proud. No shame, sing it with us. Together we are one, together we are powerful, together we are one. Feel your heart pull, or we can make the world better. Together we are powerful, the magnetic is our love. Feel your heart pull, when we stand as one. Strong attraction, changing everyone. It will have begun. No shame, no shame. Together we are one, together we are powerful, together we are one. Feel your heart pull, we can make the world